Welcome back, everyone, to the House Committee on General and Housing, and it's still February 24th, 2026. And it is now B18, and we are going to take a hard look at H87, an act relating to crime victim status under the Fair Employment Practices Act. We have a brief appearance of the august ranking member Emily Krasnow, followed by Sophie Thatney, our counsel, return, and after that, more of Emily.
If you have.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so I'm going to be very brief just to kick off Sophie. Last year, the committee took an important step forward in protecting survivors in the workplace through the passage of H 461. That bill, now law, allows survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protective leave to seek safety, seek justice, and heal. The Civil Rights Unit of the Attorney General's Office identified a disparity between the documentation requirements needed to access safe leave and those required to receive protections under the Fair Employment Practices Act. The lack of alignment between these statutes may leave survivors vulnerable to adverse employment actions after taking legally authorized safe leave. H 887 would align these provisions and ensure survivors can fully access both protections without unintended barriers. So now, without further ado, that we can ask me anything you like under the sun.
Don't go away.
I'm not. But Sophie's time is limited, so that's kind of the kickoff. So it's really a correction of the bill we worked on before, since something was caught by the Attorney General's office.
What's the bill, Mary?
The unpaid leave one,
Yeah, but what was it?
safe leave,
H 461.
461. Now law, Act 32.
Okay, take it away.
Very good afternoon, Sophie Zatney for the Office of Legislative Counsel. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Please, Act 32.
Yes.
Well, Representative Krasnow pretty much has said everything I was going to say. Essentially, this bill is, so last session under the Parental Family Leave Act, again, the number of changes were made in that act, including for safe leave for survivors of sexual assault, stalking, and domestic violence. And there were a list of requirements provided in the Parental and Family Leave Act regarding documentation that individuals could submit to their employer if they were requesting safe leave. And so what this bill seeks to do is to transfer those documentation requirements and clarify that victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking qualify as crime victims under the Fair Employment Practices Act. And the Fair Employment Practices Act is the one that deals with essentially with discrimination and harassment. And so FEPA, as it's known, has many different protected categories, and one of those is crime victims. So what this bill does is it looks at the definition of crime victim in FEPA, and this is the current language. It's on the screen right now. And then here on page 3, subsection E, it adds in, so this includes the definition of a crime victim, person who's a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking, and who has supporting documentation from any one of the following sources. And again, these 5 sources that are listed here, or 4 sources, sorry, that are listed here are the same ones that the General Assembly passed last session under the Parental Family Leave Act. And then again, same thing as in Parental Family Leave Act, it just references the definitions of what domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking would be. So again, I think as Representative Krasnow pointed out, it's really just bringing alignment between the Fair Employment Practices Act and the Parental and Family Leave Act, just making sure that they're equal. You wouldn't want to be in a situation where somebody could potentially request leave, be eligible to get leave under the Parental and Family Leave Act, but yet they could still be discriminated against for that particular status under the Fair Employment Practices Act. And I do also want to just let you know that this language is included in S-230, which is the
Right.
bill in front of Senate Economic Development that they're taking up again on Thursday. So it's possible this language will be
Right.
moving forward in S-230.
But I'd like to do it if we can agree and do that as well, here as well. It's very important.
Is this? I'm gathering this is not just a technical alignment. This is, what does, this is adding the survivors and the definition to FIPA,
Well,
right? Right?
They would have been,
By making them crime victims. What does that do and where does it do it?
so right now, they could qualify as crime victims. So they could qualify if they've obtained a relief from abuse order, an order against stalking or sexual assault. So they could qualify, but as I'm sure this committee knows, and I'm sure you could have folks in to testify, a lot of times people are victims of domestic violence and they don't report it. So they don't have those documents that are listed currently in FIPA for crime victims. So this would allow somebody to let their employer know that they are a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. And so they would then have the protections under the Fair Employment Practices Act. So it's really just, again, it is more bringing FIPA into alignment with the Parental and Family Leave Act.
And this was, I don't want to look at it as, it's not specifically a technical correction, but what it is was an unintended error on the bill that is now law that we need to correct.
This is, I'm being dense here. I'm sorry. I'm still unclear.
I don't think it was really an error. It was more that the bill last time was focused on the Parental and Family Leave Act. And then it had this definition in the Parental and Family Leave Act regarding victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking. And so the Attorney General's office, who is responsible for enforcing both laws, pointed out, well, it would be beneficial to have both, you know, the language aligned between the two bills. And it wasn't really an error.
Sorry.
It was just an oversight, I would say.
Well, but the parental, I don't, I'm just trying to understand that Parental and Family Leave Act had in it, it had in it a definition of domestic violence, sexual assault, et cetera, and what, and provided what? That
Safe
you
leave.
could take a safe leave
Right.
to, that's one of the reasons you
Yeah.
could take a leave.
Right.
Okay. This definition of crime victim expansion does what to that?
So under the so this is a separate act. This is the Fair Employment Practices Act. It deals with discrimination and harassment, and it has a whole list of protected categories. You know,
Right,
race,
now it's
religion,
what-
et cetera. And crime victim is already one of those categories.
But it required more documentation, et cetera. Okay, so under the Fair Employment Practices Act, as clarified by this, what? What can't you do? What happened? You cannot discriminate against a victim? Is that what it means?
Right, you couldn't discriminate against a victim now, but this just enables people that haven't reported
Yeah,
that and they don't have formal documentation. They can, and again, one of the things that came up on the Senate side was, you know, employers don't ask, because there was a concern around the self-attestation piece, which again is the same language that was used in parental and family leave. But there was a question around that. And, you know, if you don't need to self-attest or, you know, formally notify your employer of your sexual orientation or your religion or whatever. But if you believe you've been discriminated against on the basis of that, then at some point, you know, the plaintiff in that situation would need to establish that the reason the adverse employment action had been taken was because of their religion or because of their sexual orientation. And this is just, again, this is just a way for someone that is a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking to be able to provide supporting documentation to their employer to put them on notice that this is, you know, for example, if they were having, you know, absenteeism issues or whatever it might be, that the employer is aware that this is the situation that they're in. And it's just aligning the documentation requirements. So again, so that you you're not in a position where you're able to take parental and family leave, but you're not protected under the Fair Employment Practices Act. It's to, make sure that they're balanced between the two.
And I would personally like to move our own bill and not necessarily
Right, rely on
the Senate in any way.
Does the Senate bill have other elements?
Has
So
other
it
pieces to it.
might make it out, right?
So I'd prefer to be safe
So
than
what do
sorry.
we have to do if we want to take this up? First of all, would it have to go to judiciary?
I'm not a lawyer like the rest of the committee, but
You mean like the committee is?
so I would,
lawyers, yeah,
if I was the chair, I would like to see Todd Dallas from the Attorney General's office, and I would like to see Charlie Glisserman from the network, who's over here, come and just reiterate what we just talked about and explain why that was brought up, and then have the committee discuss that and vote it out.
I would just say that in Senate Economic Development, Emily Adams testified
Okay.
from the Attorney General's Office Civil Rights Unit.
So it might not be Todd, but someone from the Attorney General's office and Charlie come in and just kind of reiterate what we just talked about. And I think it could be passed pretty easily.
Any questions by the committee?
Seems like.
If we have
lots of support.
time and can fit it in, do people feel comfortable taking this up?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's take it up, but we're gonna have to get to,
No, I know.
yeah, we're gonna deal with landlord tenant.
I think we would probably take a very short amount of time. But yeah, I'd prefer not to wait for
Okay.
the Senate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sophie, it's now 1 minute, you're 1 minute into turning into whatever, right?
And I don't think, does anyone else have any questions for
questions?
me? I appreciate the committee's time. This is a issue that I feel very passionately about. I'm so grateful. Last session, we added the safe leave provisions, and I appreciate it. It seems like committee's pretty supportive of just working on this provision and not waiting for the Senate.
Just to explain to the committee where we're at. We got the mobile home bill, the manufactured home
Oh,
Bill.
no cookies.
out. We met this morning with Ways and Means. They get what the bill is trying to do. They're struggling with arcanities of the text pieces of the bill that I don't think Gail or I understand fully, but I think they're acting in good faith and they're working. Is that a fair statement? 775, which you passed out, the rural finance bill is in Ways and Means to be heard on Friday. And what's left of our big bills is the one we were talking about today, and we'll talk about tomorrow until we can reach consensus. I thank the committee. I think I have now talked to 3 people who were in here from different persuasions, and they were all raving about how serious
Wow.
the committee was, which is, I think, important. It's probably more important with landlord tenant than many things because there's so much controversy. There's so much tension around this. And I think literally the act of seeing committee members wrestling with these issues, no matter how much I accuse you all of being pedantic, I think it's worth it. It really makes a difference. So 2 of our 3 big bills are out. Third was under consideration. After we get landlord tenant to wherever we're going to get it, then we have to look at the 80 bills that are on our wall and decide what can we reasonably do in the remaining time. I think it's safe to say probably we want to focus on bills. Number one, we feel like we can prioritize, but also that don't have to go to multiple other committees because they just won't be time. So we just have the rest of this week and then the week after, next week, we're not here. And then the week after, 1 week before crossing. Yes.
Can I, ask if the chair would like this recommendation I've seen done before in other committees? If, I don't wanna look at it as homework, because I hate homework. But if committee members wanted to look at the bills that are on our wall and kind of think about if there are a few meeting those guidelines, knowing that we have, I don't know how we got to almost crossover, but, and kind of put a few in your mind that meet that criteria that you might want to talk and see if we could work on, I think could be really helpful. In that remaining time, maybe. I don't know how you feel
Yeah.
about that, but that's
Sure.
like something that I know I do. Look at the remaining bills. Pick a few that I think might be. So then we can hear what those ones are to people and stuff.
Yeah. Now, one thing to think about is try to avoid bills that have to go through three committees.
Right.
And try to avoid, and I would add, if a bill is only important because of it's attached to a lot of money. I mean, I'm just kind of somewhat discouraged about that. I wouldn't say don't, but put it this way, it's a factor.
And then there's also things that might be able to attach, like for instance. The Senate has a housing bill that might come here that has something to do with HOA in it. Maybe there's HOA bills that we could put on that, like, so we don't have to do those right now. But, so things that are kind of on their own that don't require money and a lot of other committee work that we might be able to work on.
Okay. Any final questions, statements, thoughts before we adjourn? It is only three.
Oh.
Oh, all right.
On that girl.
Girl.
Is there a Senate bill coming to us about that increase, that cap 1% or something on rents?
She pulled it out.
Okay.
It's not in Allison's committee bill.
Okay,
I don't think.
I don't think you're talking about on short-term rental or,
No,
on land, on
Manufactured.
manufactured homes.
homes, communities.
Right, I don't think so.
was it only manufactured home communities? Okay,
I'm pretty sure she took it out. There is what she's referring to is there is a committee bill
Right,
in Senate Economic Development. And it is got a lot of stuff in it.
yeah, and one thing in it that I'm a hard no
And
on,
I'm not sure whether it will come to this committee or not.
Right.
Depending on what's in it. There's also a bill, Senator Watson is working on a bill in her committee. I don't think appeals is necessarily going anywhere in the Senate.
that really makes me angry.
What do you a hard no on, by the way?
Oh, you wanna hear it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Sure, do people wanna hear it,
But
about what's in their Senate bill that I don't like?
sure.
Alright. I shouldn't say hard no, because I'm never an absolute hard no, always there could be, but. There's a provision in that, so HOA stuff is something that I'm pretty passionate about. I've lived in HOA for 22 years and know a lot about it. One of the things in the bill that I have raised to Senator, like it's not like it's a secret, is so in our community, we have a cap on how many renters you can have in the community. So that our entire community isn't just renters, because people, right, we do allow renters in our bylaws, but it's not unlimited. And there was a provision in this bill that would open it up that you couldn't restrict how many rental units you'd have. So in my community, we have a small HOA of condo owners. I'm fortunate enough, when my grandpa passed away, I got a condo when I was 22 years old, and I've been there ever since. You do the math, how old I am. And I want to see people who are homeowners to places that are affordable, like where I live. And if they're all rentals, and what if we have a bunch of out-of-state rental people coming in and buying up entire HOA communities? And then the entire, not to be NIMBY, I'm definitely not a NIMBY person, but my concern would be that our small HOA community could become a bunch of folks that don't care about the property, don't care about everything. And I want to create more rentals, absolutely, but my concern with removing the ability to place those restrictions could have unintended consequences. And I don't think where I live and my constituents would like it very much. So that's a provision that if it's unlimited, I'm not comfortable with.
Great, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else?
and I am disappointed about appeals because I feel like that was something that not you did amazing about it, and we
It's all our law.
right, and I am on it too, but I think that when we first had that, remember when we had that meeting with the senators on the off session, like before we came back? And there was kind of a discussion with the senators, and I myself said, I don't want to leave here without appeals. And if we're doing the heavy work on landlord tenant law and other things, it was my understanding that there would be that kind of lifting downstairs as well. And appeals was something that was in my top 3 to 5 things that I wanted to do this session. So I am
We'll
disappointed.
talk to Anna. There's still time.
Just wanted to make that public, that that's disappointing.
I agree. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned until tomorrow at 9:15.